This is the Two Marketeers Podcast, where hosts and marketing experts Sean Patrick and Lindsay Waugh seek to uncover what makes brands so powerful in how they impact modern society and culture.
Two Marketeers. They've got a podcast. The Two Marketeers Podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you, Lindsay?
I'm great. How are you, Sean?
I'm well, thank you. Good morning, Marketeers.
Good morning, Marketeers. Hope everyone's having a great day.
We seem so, I don't know, I'm getting a vibe that we're pretty calm and zen this morning.
It doesn't make sense because we're never not unhinged. We're always unhinged. I think it's because it's raining.
Maybe.
It's raining.
Oh, look at you looking at the positive.
Like I said too early, I usually turn my lights out, so it's so dark. So I'm literally feeling like I'm standing here in the dark in the rain, and it just makes it's calm.
It's true. Maybe it's that, because me too. All right. Well, we shouldn't be calm because, the word of the day is uncertainty. And
the word of the decade, actually.
Yeah, we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny how it's a new thing where it's like, do we not remember COVID and it was uncertain? I think nothing ever is certain.
Yeah.
But
things are feeling uncertain, aren't they? Forever.
It's when you do that voice. Yes. So in all this uncertainty, interesting report came out once again from our friends at work. After this one, I'm not allowed to do a work report for a little while, self-imposed. They just came out with a report they've done before, and it's called The State of Creativity 2025. And the overall theme and title of this report is a call for confidence.
Yeah.
So that really resonated with me because you can't be creative without having confidence. It's the biggest, I would say, as a creative and as a mentor of other creatives, the most important thing you have to help creatives overcome is a lack of confidence.
Yeah. You have to tell them to fake it till they make it, because you just have to. You just have to. Fake the confidence. Fake the confidence. Don't fake the talent. Fake the confidence.
How about find the confidence?
I vote fake. Okay. Where are we looking to this magical pot of confidence? Anyways, go ahead.
I like that. Today is about looking for that magical pot. Of confidence, sorry.
Right. Maybe that's why we're so calm.
I wish.
Who knows what we're up to over here? Anyway.
Breakfast of champions. Anyways, it was really interesting. We love work, but, we know that work is really an advocate for creativity, specifically in the industry of marketing. Maybe the report didn't tell us anything we didn't already know because we get enough reports and we do enough research that it's always the same thing. So how do we look at this differently? One particular piece, it's always like looking at what's the cause of this? And I think one of the root causes for this lack of confidence is what they're calling an insight famine. And that's where I would love to hear what Lindsay thinks about this idea of, well, how is that possible when you think of all the data? If you look at how much we've evolved, I'm air quoting, I let Joey on Friends, how much we've evolved and how much data we now can collect, not to mention AI, how could we be saying that creativity is taking a hit because there's a lack of insight, a famine, they call it. So, Lindsay, what's your take on that statement?
I think insight famine is my new favorite term that I shall now be using from today moving forward.
I like it.
Yeah, because I would totally agree. I totally agree with that we are in an insight famine. And when you see real insight now, it's almost refreshing, where if you're a strategist and you come up with interesting insight and you share with people, you see them become surprised and refreshed almost. If you're like in a pitch where you share an insight that resonates with the people, you see them become like, oh,
Yes.
which is what an insight should do, right? It should make you go, huh? Or, I
An
hadn't thought of
emotional
that.
reaction.
I hadn't thought of that way, and have this like reaction.
Right.
So I do think that we're in an insight famine. I do think that we're seeing kind of less and less insight brought to the table. And likely one of the reasons is because of data overload. And people are saying, well, we have all this information, so we should be able to translate that into what to do, and insight is a bridge. In my mind, the way it acts is a bridge between data and research to context and a plan and creativity and what you should do with what you've learned. So it's almost this like emotional or creative bridge between research and creative work. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. There was one piece that I loved. It literally is saying what you say all the time, and kind of what one of our basic or base principles of the Two Marketeers is. And it's taken right from the introduction of the report. And it's the chief marketing officer for Wendy's, Lindsay and she says, taking creative risks is always a mix of art and science. When the creative idea begins with a consumer insight or cultural trend, it's rooted in our brand ethos and drives a craving for our fresh, famous food. It's a no-brainer. So she's speaking specifically about that, but I think it's exactly that. Like, I would say that the bridge that insight is, it truly is that bridge between art and science.
Yes.
And I think it's such a great analogy because they have to overlap, hence the bridge, right? Like, you can't do one without the other. And the question is, which comes first? And it's honestly, whatever works for you.
Well, I think when, junior people are coming up in the industry, like in marketing, advertising, you're taught so much to rely on research, and you have to
Science.
Bring the facts to the table, bring the stats, make sure that everything that you're recommending is based on fact, and you go to the data and you see what you can pull out. And now we have more data than ever. And so people are like starting early in their careers with this like researchy mindset. So I think you get the science quickly.
Yes.
I think the art part of it is what comes later and is even more critical. Like, all of creative work done in absence of art, that like an absence of a strategy art, I'm going to say, between research and creative work, it's not as effective. It doesn't resonate as much as if you just go from data to creativity. And I suppose that's where the insight comes in, as this bridge between analysis and creativity, and what you do with that research to make sure that you can get to really interesting creative work. So I think the art part is tricky. I also feel like the art part for me anyway, came a lot later in my career than the science part, because I think science is easier it's black and white. It's research. You did it. You can prove it. And I think young strategists, young strategy people, young creative people are always having to like prove themselves. So they need those tools.
Right.
Whereas when you have more of the confidence later in your career, that's when I really felt like the art could flourish more, because I was less so trying to prove myself.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's kind of like I was the opposite, right?
Yeah.
I came at it as, wanted to do something creative. I was technically creative. I could draw. I could do all sorts of things with my hands. And so I was, I'll say, pigeonholed, and I don't mean it in a negative way, but it's sort of like, when we're young and in those years, formative years, when you look at, say, how our parents raised us, how the educational system works and all that sort of stuff, there is a wedge between being creative and not being creative. And to your point, thinking that you're one or the other is really, I think, where that bridge should happen sooner. And it should happen openly to kind of say, I don't know how many times I've sat at a table where someone has some insight or even some feedback and prefaces it with saying, hey, I'm not creative.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I mean, what would I say? Well, I'm very creative. So it's this really almost cultural sort of thing. It's not unlike how you look at how creative is looked at. How do you get good at judging creative? How do you get good at not being blinded by the brilliance of an idea without grounding in it in, is it going to, the scientific part, is it going to solve the problem?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer to that is always, it takes experience. It takes experience of doing it wrong enough times, doing it right, and always learning. And what I really loved, my piece to take away from this was, is from Harjit Singh at McCann World Group. He says, clients are people too. They grapple with uncertainty and pressure to deliver immediate results. I advise fostering a culture of radical honesty where risks are calculated and failure is seen as a learning opportunity, not a liability. Thoughts?
Well, I think that work is doing a really good job of trying to help prove the impact of creativity.
Yes.
And that's what I think the people need. I think the people need confidence in that area to say, if we champion deeper insight, which would lead to creative work that will resonate more and be more impactful, that is going to deliver business results, which is also what was in this article. And I didn't save the stats, but they were just talking about the impact of work that's more insight driven, that leads to better creative work, that leads to greater business impact. And the numbers that they shared were very impactful. So we can put that in our description.
Yes.
But I think that's what people need. They think they do feel it's uncertain unless they have proof that it's not. And so I think when people are saying that they feel uncertain and that they're nervous and all of that around, creativity, it's that we need to make sure that those things are in place so that they can feel more comfortable taking risks.
I wonder, you think of work, and I mean, you said it perfectly. They really committed themselves to show the impact, however scientific they can, of the art aspect. Right? Because it's
thank goodness for them.
Thank goodness. We love you, work. But they've been doing this for a long time. And I have to ask, we love their stuff, but are we seeing a change? Am I personally seeing a change towards what Harjit Singh said? Radical honesty. And I mean, it's kind of been the bane of my success. Arguably, radical honesty is something I've almost to a fault practiced ever since I started failing enough times to realize that no matter how good the creative is, it can be bad too, that it doesn't have a hope of succeeding unless there's some upfront honesty, unless there's some challenge around, okay, this is a brief. Can we talk about that? Because, we're experts. Any creative at an agency, any strategist at an agency, we're experts in something that other people, we know something better than other people. And the way we know those things is not academic. Like, that's the whole thing. It's experience. It's experiencing it enough times to really say, I can't tell you how many times I see a brief and kind of go, I just question. It's like, okay, the facts that are in here, I question whether they're even facts, or I question there's data here, but there's a lot of data I don't have to really come up with an idea that I even believe has what it takes to succeed.
Yeah. I think that's where, it's a combination. I love the radical honesty thing. And I think a lot of that is kind of looking in the mirror and saying, like, do we actually have the information that we need to succeed in this situation?
Yes.
So for me, it's a bit of radical honesty and education. I think
Yes.
a lot of people truly do believe that they're giving you the right information. And
Yes.
so it's education on both sides to say, I need to be educated enough to know that that's not the information that's going to help this work move forward. And they need to be educated in the sense that to say, like, thank you so much for sharing the facts, but that's not, it's surface level, or we need to go deeper, or whatever the case may be to get to real insight. So
That is an insight.
and that's the bridge between the data and insight, to say, when we go a level deeper, insight into how people behave, how they feel, like how they are going about the world in their lives, and all of these things that make you go, oh, I've now turned fact into something that's emotional and interesting and will really resonate with people. And that is a springboard for effective creative.
That's really interesting, because when you truly identify insight as the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
it's not owned by either side. And right now, the belief is that the insight lies in the data. And truly, the insight lies from a bit of the science and the art.
And the context around the data. Like, what else is going on here,
Exactly. And that's when you actually combine that sort of, whether it's collaborative, whether it's one person who just has that, whether it's a smart client who understands what they don't know just as much as what they do know. That bridge doesn't live in one of those two places. It takes creative thinking to actually remove yourself and think about the context of what that data is telling you from a human experience, right? Like, I feel like the insight, what's so great about that, it is the truly human piece. Because arguably, if you bring in, or inarguably, let me be bold, if you look at what AI can do, okay? AI can do science and AI can do art, arguably, right? It can generate creative.
I think you're making a lot of people mad right now, but I'm here for it. Let's go down this path.
And we do go down this path in our next episode, where Lindsay and I continue the conversation about the crucial role human insight plays in bridging the gap between art and science in modern marketing. Insight Famine, Part 2. Have a great week, marketeers, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Two Marketeers Podcast. New episodes launch every 2 weeks.
Find the Two Marketeers Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you like to listen. And be sure to rate and subscribe.
Listen on our website, thetwomarketeers.ca, or you can ask Alexa to play the Two Marketeers Podcast.
Want to keep in touch? Follow the Two Marketeers on LinkedIn or at Two Marketeers on TikTok. We've always got something to share.
This podcast is over.